FM is SVG.
26 minutes on to 11 o'clock here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You're locked on to WFM 99.9, the Clean Fresh Sound, and this is your It's Your Turn program. Remember, It's Your Turn is an interactive program, so the numbers to call are 457 9997 if you're calling from a local landline, 532 9997 if you're calling from a digital cell phone, or you can call us or send us a message on WhatsApp at 457 9997. The It's Your Turn program is being hosted by Mr. Cecil Ryan and Mr. Lanceford Weeks. Good morning to you, Cecil.
Good morning to you, Karen, and good morning to Lanceford. And he's not in studio, but he's on with us via video link. Also, give a shout out to my other colleague, Philbert P. John. Philbert is not in studio with us today. He's not on the program. Just want to give him a shout up and urge better feeling on his part. So, Pigeon, here up to you, and I hope you're doing well. Well, I hope you're feeling better by the end of this week for sure. So, good morning to all our listeners and family members and participants to the Issue at Hand program on WFM, the Clean Fresh Sound. And as I always say, it's a family affair. Family in terms of Issue at Hand, the Issue at Hand family, but more generally, the WFM family, all our listeners and friends across the world, of course, here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Those who listen to all of the WFM programs, from the morning programs, the midday programs, the afternoon programs, the Sunday program, the night program, all of the programs. So greetings to all of you and welcome to the program, and we're happy to have you in company this morning. This morning we're going to be dealing with a number of clips, audio clips, and of course we invite your participation, but let me invite my colleague who is in cyberspace, so to say, my brother and comrade, Lanceford Weeks, to greet you. Lanceford, are you here?
Hi, Cecil. Good morning.
Okay.
You heard me?
Yes, well.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So I'm giving a chance to greet our listeners, and then we will come back.
Thank you very much, Cecil. I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of your program today, and to greet all those who are listening to this important program. I know that there are some very important persons who are listening, and some of them may be grieving at this time. I want to extend condolences to them. Thank you, Cecil.
All right, so let me extend greetings to our regulars. I want to shout up Bristol up in Overland. Greetings, I hope you're doing well. Also, Brother Mason in Layu, greetings. Welcome to the program if you're on with us this morning. Sister Harold, good morning to you and welcome to the program. And we have long away, we have Brother Kojo Mason, greetings. Welcome to the program. Bongo Shaka, good morning to you and welcome to the program. And all the other special people who listen to our program religiously, we greet you very warmly and we welcome you to the program. I want to give special greetings to my friend's grandmother, Victoria Moses. She celebrated 105 years. Could you believe that? 105 years, and she's still strong, voice as strong as ever. I wish you would call the program and give greetings. You see how strong her voice is. So greetings to you, Granny Moses. I also want to greet especially my sister who is celebrating a birthday today. And I just want to tell her that I love her dearly, and of course, daily and every time, every minute of the day. Just want to reach out to her and all my other siblings. Greetings to all of you. Welcome to the program this morning. Greetings to the families of the Star family, the Garfiner Radio family, and of course, as I said before, the WFM family. It's good to be on with you this morning. We have a number of audio clips to play, and we hope you would stay with us as we play these clips. Very informative clips, very interesting clips from the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Godwin Friday, and we also were stating different positions. We also have clips from former Finance Minister Camilo Gonzalez, interesting analyses that he has provided. So we invite you to stay with us this morning and, for the whole program. And I'm sure you would be, those of you who are able to participate, call us and give your own take on some of these programs. But I want to just go off as usual. I like to set the stage for our discussion. So I just want to play this Stalin song, one which has been played many, many times on this program.
We seem to feel that life is over just because we throw a few pennies down the gutter. We seem to feel everything is lost, so we fighting to get back something at any cost. But while we searching and we searching just to get back that little something, we forgetting we knows nothing about this world in which we live in. Someone greater put this world together, so we must remember, in times of plenty we must be grateful. In times of sorrow we must be strong. In times of joy we must be thankful, because life really have its ups and its downs. In times of disaster we must be ready to join together and move racism out the way. And if you listen to this watchword from your lover, Black Stalin, tomorrow would be a better day. Better day, better day, better day.
Well, of course, as usual, we expect and we try always to make tomorrow a better day. Notwithstanding the challenges and difficulties, let's all work to make tomorrow a better day. All right, I want to start, Lanceford, with a piece from the regular piece, not the whole thing, from Win Calendar. You know, that's that Across the Caribbean broadcast that he does. But I only extracted for this morning's program the piece that he did on St. Vincent. So let's hear it.
This is Caribbean Connection News. Thanks for joining our network of stations. I'm Win Calendar, and this week, from Kingstown, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Godwin Friday has called for greater resilience, stronger regional cooperation, and increased development financing as Caribbean nations navigate a complex global environment. Speaking on behalf of the borrowing member countries at the Caribbean Development Bank's 56th annual meeting in Nassau, the Bahamas, Prime Minister Friday said the region's future must be shaped by deliberate action, strong institutions, and regional solidarity. The meeting brought together regional leaders, policymakers, and development partners to address the Caribbean's key challenges and opportunities.
At a time when the region requires an estimated $14 billion annually for a comprehensive climate response, it mobilizes less than 10% of that amount. It is therefore imperative that our development partners become more adaptive, more responsive, and willing to provide highly concessional financing and dedicated resources for loss and damage that will not worsen a bad debt situation. We acknowledge that the Caribbean Development Bank is an indispensable partner in the project of regional economic transformation promised upon regional integration. However, regional economic integration is sustainable only if partners all derive benefit from it and economic disparities among member countries do not grow too wide. The bank is uniquely positioned to promote that end.
So that was the voice of Prime Minister Friday speaking at the CDB, Caribbean Development Bank meeting in Nassau in the Bahamas. As I said, this is a regular insert from our brother Win Calendar, but this morning I chose to play only this part of it. Lanceford, any reaction so far? We have others to play.
Yes, Cecil. I want to use this opportunity to preface my participation in today's program by just saying a couple of things. First of all, I want to start with my premise that I agree with IPA in his Calypso. More than agreeing with him, that is my position with respect to the politics of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. At this time, the party I support is in opposition. So in other words, my party lost the last elections, but my government is in office, meaning that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, whether or not I vote for or against them, is always my government. I have chosen to live here all my life so that whatever work I do contributed to the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Cecil, I'm saying this because I notice more and more there are a set of persons who feel that they must shut you up because they never heard you say certain things and now you say them. They insist you must shut up. I want to indicate I am not about to do this. Nobody was ever able to shut me up. There are those who tried in the past. They didn't succeed, and nobody is going to do that now. Cecil, it is our responsibility to keep our government accountable. And keeping them accountable depends on each of us, where we are in life, our understanding of the things around us, our knowledge of the things around us. And we can speak on issues on that basis. Now, as Prime Minister Dr. Friday attended, or maybe he's attending, still I'm not sure if the meeting is over. I'm not sure if he's back in St. Vincent, but given his participation in the CDB Forum is one that I welcome, because at this stage of our national development, our focus has to be on developmental policies and not so much on fiscal or monetary. Well, fiscal, yes, but not so much on monetary issues, because we have very little control with respect to the monetary policies that we can pursue. What I mean by this, Cecil, we are part of a central bank that for the most part control the monetary policies of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Any changes we make in that regard has to be done so jointly by all the members of the East Caribbean Central Bank. What we have at our disposal is the opportunity to develop our country. And that is why we can make changes, and that is why I so much welcome his participation in that meeting, as against the first journey he embarked on to go to the IMF meeting. There's nothing wrong with going to the IMF meeting, but you have to understand the difference between monetary institutions and development institutions. So my journey took me through engaging in some of these organizations. And so I develop an appreciation for the work they do. And the comments I make this morning will take into consideration those facts, Cecil.
All right, great. And I neglected to remind our listeners that we are listening from a man who has an immense experience in dealing with economic matters. He has done economics, studied economics at university, and plus he was in a place as a senior public servant where he actually was able to apply his knowledge in economics and statistics. So basically what we're dealing with, he's been dealing with applied economics for a number of years as a senior public servant. And I'm talking about, of course, my colleague and friend and comrade, Lanceford. So just wanted to put that in perspective. And even as I've done that, I want to play this piece, Lanceford, and I want your reaction to it as well. It's Prime Minister's Friday speaking at the CDB meeting in
The Caribbean has entered the 2026 hurricane season, still nursing severe wounds inflicted by Hurricane Beryl in 2024 and Melissa in 2025. We are familiar with the enormous economic toll those extreme weather events extracted, and therefore must respond effectively. The environmental strategy of the CDB and borrowing countries must focus on building climate resilience, economic assets, upgrading coastal infrastructure, and expanding early warning systems. Economic resilience requires that there be support for countries that absorb shocks while sustaining inclusive growth. The borrowing member countries must aggressively pursue economic diversification across modern frontiers, including digitalizing public services, reducing high fossil fuel imports by exploiting renewable energy sources such as the geothermal projects in Dominica and St. Kitts and Nevis, and investing aggressively in solar power, promoting sustainable use and management of our marine resources, and promoting value-added agro-processing to enhance domestic food security, reduce food imports, and encourage export. Growth is misguided and unsustainable if it leaves vulnerable populations behind. Social resilience requires strengthening people's ability to withstand shocks by expanding access to essential services and developing responsive and effective social protection systems. Key initiatives like the Basic Needs Trust Fund must continue to act as flagship community development programs, creating inclusive, safe environments across participating countries. Borrowing member countries express their support for the bank's institutional reform agenda, known as CDB Forward, which envisages reforms in governance, in addressing the implementation deficit or gap, workforce considerations, making the bank's operating model more proactive and client-centered. Considering our structural challenges in the region, the bank must make its development impact felt with greater speed and with far more reach. The borrowing member countries have delivered a clear mandate. We must move swiftly to implement the transformative reforms to eliminate friction and drive our institution forward. The need is urgent, and therefore the time to act is now. The borrowing member countries urge the bank to accelerate project implementation, address the persistent issue of undisbursed loans, and reform its procurement frameworks by adopting digital tools and risk-based approaches. We also encourage the bank to aggressively embrace and leverage partnerships with other multilateral development banks, as well as bilateral development partners, to mobilize private capital and maximize co-financing. To sustain this ambitious agenda, the borrowing member countries appeal directly to all CDB shareholders and non-regional partners to fully support the bank in its strategic direction. The 10-year strategic plan requires robust capital backing and expanded resources. In this regard, full support must be given to the Special Development Fund, SDF 11, which remains the lifeblood of concessional financing for the region's vulnerable members. Resistance, adaptation, and an unconquerable spirit define the historical experience of the Caribbean people. Despite our limitations, we continue to deliver better lives for our people. However, the region's development path must not be defined or be limited by our vulnerability. It must be shaped by our deliberate choices, our capable institutions, and by regional solidarity. Whose core constituents and owners are the Caribbean people. The bank has developed a wealth of experience, talent, and invaluable knowledge about our countries and region. The bank has become indispensable to our development. Consequently, the CDP is well placed to speak credibly and in a focused manner for its Caribbean constituents, and to be in the lead in designing solutions tailored to the needs of our economically and climate vulnerable small open economies. A striking demonstration of this transformative impact is observed in my own country in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which after decades of repeated severe shocks have seen efforts on the part of our country and the bank to develop resilient infrastructure. The modern port in Kingstown, the school improvement projects, the road management and rural road programs, all fortify our country in the face of shocks. These interventions prove that when targeted CDB capital is merged with local knowledge, it has the power to transform lives, elevate communities, and build climate-resilient economic assets.
All right, so Lanceford, I just played those two audio inserts, and in particular the last one, for your reaction and comments.
Thank you, Cecil. It's a lot that was said by our Prime Minister today. I want to note up front that I am cognizant of the fact that he was speaking on behalf of the borrowing members of CDB, and not simply as Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. However, though, Cecil, while you're speaking on behalf of borrowing members, I don't think you can talk about disasters in the Caribbean by simply mentioning the two tropical weather events that caused significant destruction in the region. We must include the eruption of Lanceford when we are talking about disasters in the region. Because while the eruption of Lanceford took place in St. Vincent, it did not affect St. Vincent and the Grenadines only. We know, for example, Barbados suffered significantly due to the eruption of Lanceford. So I believe that should be included as well. When we talk about climate resilience, Cecil, we will do ourselves a disservice if we do not include the conservation of our biodiversity, our fauna, and our flora. Because I've always said that if we're going to provide the means to keep ourselves as much as possible safely from the ravages of climate change, we must depend on nature at all times to assist us in doing so. So we have to be, apart from building seawalls and so forth, we must pay attention to our mangrove and ensure that we do what we can to help them to protect us, help them to protect our shorelines. And we have done this significant destruction to that part of our flora, our plant, and by extension our animals in that regard, in terms of our development. But we must continue to pay attention to conserving and protecting our biodiversity. We must not go into protected areas, whether they are in the urban or rural areas, and do things that are inimical to the existence of those areas. So I urge our leaders to, at all times, pay attention to the conservation of our biodiversity. Cecil, with respect to the energy situation and the non-use of carbon to provide energy in these parts. Again, we have to use the natural resources. I note, though, that the geothermal projects of Dominica and St. Kitts were mentioned in our Prime Minister's address. But we must never forget that significant amount of grant financing was used in exploring geothermal resources in St. Vincent as well. And based on the reports that are in the public, based on the information that are in the public, I don't think all is lost with respect to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. With respect to geothermal, the technology has been improving, and it is my understanding that there is technology that can utilize the existing work that was done so far to advance our approach to get geothermal energy to be part of our energy mix in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Cecil.
Yes. I don't know if you picked it up, but of particular interest to me is the fact that Prime Minister Friday actually acknowledged he made mention of the port in Kingstown, the new port in Kingstown. He made mention as well of work to do, sea defense, river defense, and I think he mentioned building school buildings. And why it's important to me and why it's significant to me that he mentioned those things is that on the other hand, Prime Minister, and on other occasions, in terms of speeches and addresses, he has described the past effort as waste. Other ministers of government do the same thing. So it was noteworthy to me when he mentioned that the port in the new Kingston port and the other things that he mentioned as being useful effort to build resilience and to build the capacity in the country. What do you think?
Cecil, yes, I heard the mention made by Prime Minister Friday with respect to the issues that you raised. And you know what I note, and sometimes I really don't pay attention to it because what it is. Sometimes the way we speak depends on the audience that we are speaking to. But often the audience that we think we are speaking to is much wider. And it may just be the situation in this case. I have heard many things said about the new port in Kingston. For example, during the Christmas season last year, I heard a lot of noise made about the capacity of the warehousing at that port. And then I asked myself, the situation that took place during particularly the latter half of December is not the regular situation for the port. What I mean by this is St. Vincent and the Grenadines have come accustomed to, during the latter part of the year, for persons who are importing foodstuff and other personal effects, get significant concession on their import. It is commonly called the free barrel season. And therefore, as a result of that, there is a lot more important importation with in that area at the end of the year. For the remainder of the year, which is the vast majority of the year, you're not going to have that kind of capacity requirement at the port. You will not be required to store all of those barrels and boxes. And therefore, it would have been wasting to build permanent storage when during that short period, adaptation and adjustments could have been made and were made to deal with the situation. And that came across in December as a strong criticism of Port Kingston, the new port in Kingston. So I'm sure, I believe that is partly why that must have drawn your attention to that part of his address. Cecil, the issue of defending our coastline, especially on the Atlantic, the eastern side of our islands where the Atlantic Ocean pounds our shoreline on a daily basis, and at times it becomes significantly worse, especially during bad weather, and more so when you have a tropical storm passing across our islands. We could not leave our shoreline exposed in the way it was. I don't know how many persons ever pay attention to Sandy Bay, for instance. A significant amount of Sandy Bay was lost due to erosion. We can say the same thing for Georgetown and generally all along the eastern coast of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Cecil, I don't know if you remember that much of the money that was used to erect these protection barriers for our coastline were loans secured from the CDB, concessional financing. And that's why I often ask our people to pay attention. Our focus must be on development, on production. In other words, increasing our GDP rather than focusing on the monetary side of things, our debt. Much of that debt, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, had to do with disasters. The eruption of Lanceford and the passage of tropical weather, Beryl, for example. These events cause significant damage to our physical infrastructure and dislocation and loss to our population. A friend of mine and I said, when we heard of all of the grants that the government was providing in response to Lanceford eruption and the passage of Beryl, we will often jokingly say, well, Ralph will give away the whole country and he will give away himself next. But often we forget much of this grant that were absolutely necessary to respond to the disasters that we were faced with at the time in assisting our population generally to respond and to cope are part of that $3.5 million that we spend our time focusing on these days.
You said 3.5 million. Did you mean 3.5 billion?
Billion. Thanks for the correction, Cecil. 3.5 billion. We spend a lot of our time focusing on that without noting why it was borrowed and what it was borrowed for. When we have great opportunities, some of which we appear to be losing, to develop our country and increase our GDP. Cecil, I don't know.
Yes. All right. We could take a little break now and see if anyone wants to contribute to the discussion so far. But even while I invite persons to call in, 457-9997 is the number you would call to get you to direct line or WhatsApp, or you can also send us a WhatsApp message. In the meantime, I have the voice of Granny Moses, and I want to play it now so that I don't miss it later.
So, Queen Victoria, you're celebrating your 105th birthday. This is a remarkable achievement. How does it feel to be celebrating such a milestone?
I am feeling very good, real good within myself. I did not expect to reach this far, but the Lord take me here where I am today.
And what is your secret to longevity?
Well, I would tell you, it's nothing special, more than just relax yourself. Take care, eat and drink whatever you can of the best, and everything will go well for you.
And what advice would you give to younger people today?
Well, the young people of today, plenty of them, they have the understanding, but still they don't want to take the advice. They just like to have things and do things their own way.
Okay, so thank you, Granny, for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. Congratulations on this wonderful milestone, and may God's face continue to shine upon you. We love you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so that was if you like, a brief interview with Granny Moses. I mentioned at the beginning she just celebrated 105 years, and that her voice is still so strong, and we welcome her in this interview.
Cecil,
before you go, Lanceford?
Yes, go ahead, take the call.
Yeah, all right. Good morning, welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning.
Morning to you.
I am on the program.
Yes, you are. You're on the program live. People are hearing you.
Yes, Mr. Ryan. You know me, but you wouldn't recognize the voice, right?
It's all right.
One question, right? Two ever, right? Could Mr. Weeks say how much money the government received, the last government received from outside, from any outside help, based on the Lanceford eruption and money for burial, right? So the reason why I'm asking this, when you walk about and you ask, I speak to people have the opinion that the amount of money the last government received for the volcano eruption and plus burial, the government then had to bury additional money. So I want somebody to answer that question. If you understand what I'm saying, right?
No, we follow, and Lanceford is listening, and he will respond to your question.
Yeah. So it's was like, it sounded like if that the government, based on outside help, outside money as a financing, then they have enough that they should have to bury in addition towards the volcano eruption and a burial. So
when you say the government, you mean the previous government or the present government?
Yes.
The previous government?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like somebody to explain that breakdown for and everybody understand, because I want to know if there was enough money was given so they don't have to bury.
All right, so let's listen to Lanceford, and he will.
I would listen Harvey.
Okay then, thanks for calling.
Right.
Well, yes, Lanceford, it's over to you.
Cecil, thank you. It's a very important question. And I hope, sometimes we ask questions simply to make statements.
Mm-hmm.
Many a times, questions are really statements. And therefore, when you ask the question, you don't listen for the answer, because your answer was already in the statement. But for those who are willing to listen, what we need to understand, that much of the grant that was collected on behalf of St. Vincent and the Grenadines was never given to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For example, the United Nations set about to raise a significant amount of money to respond to the eruption of Lanceford in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I don't know how much, if any at all, of that money came to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We witnessed on the runway, the decommissioned runway at E.T. Joshua Airport, where the new hospital is being constructed. During our response to the eruption of Lanceford, we saw the massive operations that went on there. That was part of the millions of dollars that the United Nations responded or reported that they raised for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Persons may remember the work of that organization, something kitchen, Cecil.
Yeah, World Food Kitchen, I think it was called.
Yeah, I'm sure the listeners would appreciate. Sorry, it's not the full name not coming back immediately. But that operations were grants for St. Vincent, but the government never received it. It was spent in St. Vincent. The government never received it. That money was not available to rebuild homes in Sandy Bay and Oria and Fancy. That was not available to the government. The folks in Mustique provided grants for homes to be rebuilt. That money was not given to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As far as I remember, they went directly. The point, Cecil, a lot of the money, most of the money that you hear coming into St. Vincent and the Grenadines was not available to the government to be spent on the infrastructure projects that the government needed to put in place. Much of it was money spent by those who collected it, including the important grant funds that the United Nations raised and gave to St. Vincent. It was not given to the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So when the government had to go and borrow money to build homes, additional homes, in their response, they didn't do so they didn't do so having the United Nations money in the coffers. That money never came to the coffers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Cecil.
Mm-hmm.
I hope some of our listeners can understand that.
And also, Lanceford, wasn't the gentleman from Canawan, Mr. Weiss? Didn't he also contribute money that did not go into the government's coffers?
Exactly, Cecil. That gentleman built, and this is in response to burial. He provided significant grants to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in our response to burial. But we saw him and his team of workers actually doing the work. We had to support the work that they were doing. It was not them simply responding and building all the houses that were needed in St. Vincent. Vidlec, for example, had to do significant recovery work over a short period of time. And Cecil, those of us who have been involved and who are involved in construction would know that the shorter the time you have to respond is the higher the cost will go. Because sometimes you have to pay, for example, higher rates for labor. Sometimes you have to pay overtime rates, etc. So the government had to borrow in order to match what, for example, Mr. Weiss was contributing to St. Vincent in our response. It's a very important question. A very important question.
Came from, was it Romania?
Yes, the work team came from Romania that Mr. Weiss provided to assist in our response.
Along with some local workers.
With many locals, many locals whom we must recognize. For many of them made sacrifice because they left the home on St. Vincent and went to the Grenadines to work, to live in camps. And while I think they were paid well, they made significant sacrifices.
And in that respect, we also have to recognize the input from the Guyanese contingent of folks who came in from the Guyanese military.
That's true, Cecil. Yes, those guys came and did good work, I understand.
And again, Lanceford, as you're saying, it's not money that went into the government's coffers, but those monies were paid by the government of Guyana and Mr. Weiss, as you were saying.
Mr. Weiss, absolutely, Cecil. So you can go around and talk about the millions of dollars, for example, that the United Nations raised. Yes, they raised it. But they didn't raise that and give it to St. Vincent to say, you respond how you like to your needs. They decided how they were going to spend it, and they spent it for the most part.
All right. So I hope that the person who called and posed the question, is clear. And others who are listening, if they were not as clear, they're clear now from your answer to the question, Lanceford. If there's anyone else who has a question so far on what you've heard, please call us or send us a message, a WhatsApp message. 457-9997 is the number to which you can send a WhatsApp message, or the number to which you can call to get onto the program, as did the person.
Cecil,
yes.
While we wait another callers, before the last call, the caller came in, I was about to join you in congratulating our centenarian,
Yes.
Granny Moses, and to recognize the clarity in which she spoke
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no fluff. She was to the point. She was precise, coherent, and provided very good advice to the young people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Those who are listening to us, I hope we all heed Granny Moses' advice, Cecil.
Yes, of course, Lanceford. So again, the number to call is 457-9997. We have a call now. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mr. Weeks, and Cecil, Pijan, and who else is in the studio?
Pijan is not
Jeff
in the
Calder.
studio. Pijan is not in the studio, but he's following the program.
Okay. All right. I just kind of joined in and heard the caller who called and Mr. Weeks' explanation. Excellent. I have had many people here in the United States had the same kind of question about the government got a lot of money to build houses. What did they do with the money? Stuff like that. And I said those money were grants. And the government probably never got those money. No, they got the money. They got millions of dollars. How come they never rebuild the houses? So I hope a lot of people is listening. And personally, I am going to tape this. That's what I started taping. But I did not get the person question or tape after. I will replay and tape it and send it out to those persons who I converse with about this thing. Excellent explanation, Mr. Weeks. And I must say, last week calling about those people from Tampa that came in and do the vision work in
not last week, the week before.
The week before. Yeah, they were very impressed with St. Vincent and West St. Vincent because I didn't go down to the Grenadines. Well, that's St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I believe they want to partner and make it an ongoing thing. So they were happy. They had a lot of people came out and they had some work done. So I saw one of them yesterday. A couple of them post some things on Facebook about St. Vincent, the experience which I posted. So I want to say thank you guys for allowing me to put a plug for them 2 weeks ago. And we have put it in a bulletin.
All right. Well, thanks. We have
listen to Mr. Weeks. Yes. Right. I'm going now.
Okay,
just
thank you very much, Jeff.
Listening. All right. You're welcome.
Okay. Greetings, brother and comrade and colleague.
Hey. Hello?
Yes, you're on. We are hearing you.
Good morning, Cecil.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lanceford.
How
are you doing?
I'm good, Your Excellency.
Just to add to what Lanceford, his excellent explanation to do with grants and contributions from outside when there's a disaster. A lot of times the governments, if you remember recently, when there was a disaster in Cuba, there's usually a token sort of contribution. Sometimes they say $200,000 US, 200,000 Canadian dollars. So you would find the government of Canada, I think when we had a disaster, when we had Soufriere, I can't remember Soufriere burial, they would make a contribution to the government. They may call it a token contribution of $200,000. It's basically to mark the respect of showing some sort of respect for the country and knowing that they're in solidarity. So they will give a token number. And similarly, you will hear St. Vincent would give to Cuba or Jamaica a token contribution in respect to their showing respect to the disaster. That money, now that grant, that promise is never gonna come tomorrow, even if they make the promise today. But the disaster is there's such urgency in dealing with the disaster. We may have to go out and borrow money to make sure we repair the damage, because if we are to wait on those grants, you may have to wait a few years down the road for state to materialize. You would remember recently this present government offered a contribution to Cuba. And I don't know if that contribution was made yet. So that is what happens, right? But you can't wait until that money is given, put in the treasury before you start to act. And the previous government, the ULP government, always said, while we wait on those funds to come in, we will have to go ahead and fix the homes. And to fix those homes, we have to go and get a loan. So we can't wait until that money come in. It might take too long. So as they say, while the grass is growing, the horse is starving. You know? So I just wanted to add that to the explanation that Weeks gave, that because we are in an emergency situation, we can't wait until those promises materialize before we act on them, act on the disaster. I hope that helps to clarify it even further, Weeks.
Thanks, Fitz. That's an important addition. But we can't understate the point that much of the grant that is promised, or we can even say given, never gets to the government.
That's a fact, yes, that's true.
The grantor spend it themselves. They may consult with the government in terms of what food to send and what supplies to send and so. But
they will send it through agencies like Salvation Army, Red Cross, etc., Rotary Club, those kind of agencies, you know.
Exactly, and important bodies of the United Nations, like the one that was here operating at T.T. Joshua. They spent a lot of money in St. Vincent.
Yes, the World Food Program you're talking about.
Yeah, the World Food Program supported by, I think it's World Kitchen it is called.
World Kitchen, yes.
World Kitchen, yes. So it's an important addition, Fitz.
Yeah,
it's an important addition because...
All right then, Fitz. Have a good day.
All right, okay, good.
Yes, Lanceford, finish up. Sorry. You're making
Cecil, if the point that Fitz is making is very important. If we have to sit and wait until that promised grant comes, our folks will die because many of them are exposed to the elements. The government expended significant money by providing shelter for them, renting guest houses, renting private homes, etc., etc. But there were those who wanted to stay in the Grenadines, stay exposed to the elements, and therefore the government had an obligation to move quickly, and in most cases, more quickly than the time it takes for the grants to come in. Importantly, Cecil, remember the government had arranged with the World Bank, I think it was, and the IMF, monies that were borrowed but were not spent. They were sitting there waiting for events like burial and the eruption of Lanceford. Locally, the government also put in place a contingent fund. And while these were available for the immediate response to the emergency, they were far from sufficient in responding to the events, the weather events that affected us.
So Lanceford, the houses, the hundreds, perhaps thousands of houses that were repaired across the country, and in particular, Union Island, those funds were provided through or made available through loans.
Yes, Cecil. There's another very important issue that I hear spoken about on many occasions. And sometimes I wonder if persons who are supposed to be in the know, whether or not they listen or whether they deliberately attempt to mislead our population. Remember, the government had borrowed $63 million from the World Bank to go into the hospital at Arnesfield, the construction of the hospital at Arnesfield. And even after the approval of those funds, it was necessary, I believe, advised by those who are working, the civil servants who are working on the projects, that it would have been more beneficial for the government to leave those funds and use monies that were available otherwise to build the hospital. And there are many of those who said that the government borrowed that $63 million and spent it off. And then it borrowed another $63 million to spend on relief. What they never tell us is the original $63 million that was set aside for the hospital that was reprogrammed and approval given for use in the disaster response. It was not additional monies. Cecil, when you're in government and you have had experience working with institutions, you quickly understand what institutions you can deal with and what you can deal with them for. In responding to emergencies, you can't wait for institutions that are going to push you around and wait for every T to be crossed and every I to be dotted while your people are suffering. I know how difficult it is to spend the World Bank's money. That money hardly ever go into the consolidated fund of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is always, well, if not always, often put in another account that you have to get approval from the World Bank to spend on particular items. So let us say you're proposing to do a construction project and you get the funds from the World Bank, you get the loan approved from the World Bank. It doesn't automatically mean that the $60 million or whatever the sum is will come into St. Vincent immediately and the accountant general can spend it off to pay bills and do other things. That money is placed in an account. And everything you're going to spend on, you have to get what is referred to in their language as a no objection to spend that money. So you want to hire a consultant, you have to get a no objection. You have approved the tender process, you have gone through the tender process, and the local institutions that are involved in approving tenders have done all the work, which is quite similar to what the World Bank requires. Having done that, you can't simply go and award the contract. You have to get a no objection from the World Bank to award a contract. A no objection is really approval. They use that language, but it really means the approval to do it. So the point I was making, if you have emergency and you need to spend money, You have $63 million at the World Bank. You have to know, given all the circumstances, what you're going to get the World Bank to approve that for. And it is the same with many other developmental partners. So sometimes we hear persons making comments about the monies that the government receive and asking where it is or how it was spent. The same thing is going to happen. As a matter of fact, the same thing is happening with this government. Because governments are governments. The World Bank doesn't look to see it's the ULP government or the NDP government. They're dealing with the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And all of those obstacles that were in the way of the government when it was the ULP will be in the way of the government that is now the NDP. Dr. Friday, Prime Minister, in his address to the CDB, made a reference to some of it.
That's right.
When he mentioned the implementation rate and the outstanding balances, etc., etc. Those are some of the difficulties, the obstacles that within his short 6 months in office, he's appealing against and making recommendations to the CDB that they must be more agile in the way they support our development generally.
And if you remember, PM Gonzalez at the time made a similar appeal to the people in the city to be more agile. I don't know if you recall that.
Yes, Cecil, that is
All
definitely
right.
so.
Yeah. We have a call. Let's take it. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Cecil and Lanceford, you're the only two there. This is Lucille in Beckwith.
Hi, yeah, you see, Lucille. Yeah, P. John is not doing well.
Not there today?
Yeah, he's not.
Yes. Hi, P. John. He's probably listening, as you
He
said
is.
before.
Yes.
Just want to ask Lanceford. He's doing such a fantastic job of explaining this. I'm learning a lot. But I believe it may be very useful too if he can help people understand that the Prime Minister, whether it's Ralph or Godwin Friday, cannot write a check and draw money from these accounts at the bank. I've heard people say that when they talk about who defraud and who steal and who rob. Ralph could not have, and the current Prime Minister cannot, just grab a check, write a check, and take tons of money out of the government's account at the bank. Can he maybe just speak a little bit to the process? It's probably quite complicated, but I know it's not as easy as what I'm saying, as what I said there.
All right,
Miss Cosia.
Yes, he's there.
Hello.
Thank you. I'll be listening. Yes, I'll be listening. Thank you.
Okay, then.
Cecil, that's another very important question. You get it all the time as questions, you get it as statements. Associated with that is the $95 million corruption. I don't know if you remember that, Cecil.
No.
That $95 million went missing from the government coffers.
I remember when that was
and up to today, people make reference to it and speak about it as though it is factual. This is in government. There is roles and responsibility for institutions and for individuals. One of the problems we have is that generally the public do not understand the rules and the roles played by individuals and institutions in government. I see many of them calling for the removal of this person and that person and changes to be made. But you remove those persons and put new parcels in their place, the new parcels are going to be constrained by the same rules and regulations and would be required to have the same loyalty to the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines as against loyal to political parties. That's what civil servants are required to do, to be loyal to the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not to political parties, whether it's ELP or the NDP. Cecil, there are procurement rules in government. There are different levels. For example, any expenditure that is $20,000 and above, the tenders board, which is made up of senior civil servants and other members of the public, have to be involved in that process. $20,000 and more. And the $20,000 does not have to be a one-time spend. If you're going to spend $10,000 now, $15,000 next month, and another $15,000 in the following month, and it can be linked. It is linked. It is the same thing that you're doing, but you're paying for it in different periods. You're required to go to the tenders board for such expenditure for the approval. Cecil, any expenditure above, well, between $7,000 and $20,000. The Ministry of Finance has to give approval for that. And when I say Ministry of Finance, I'm not talking about the minister. I'm talking about the ministry, the staff in the Ministry of Finance, led by the Director General and the Budget Director. Somebody on their behalf must give approval for that expenditure. Usually a contract, a form contract, a contract that is in a pre-prepared form. You have the form and you fill in the blanks, is used for that level of expenditure. But before the payment is made, the Ministry of Finance must give its approval. And the process goes all the way down. When expenditure is made on behalf of the government, usually it's a clerk in the ministry that starts the process. Well, of course, all of the approvals must begin before the clerks, or should begin before the clerk begins processing the payment. So the clerk will put that payment in the system, and the payment have to be complemented with the various supporting documents, whether it is invoices, it is the approval of the Ministry of Finance for the expenditures, the tenders board approval, it is the signature of the officer who received the item. You have to have all of those documents and submit them as part of the process. That in the electronic system goes across to the Treasury, and there are folks over there who go through that, ensure that all the required documents are there, all the approvals are there before they approve the payment. The checks are written by the Accountant General's office, the Treasury Department, and signed by the Accountant General or by officers approved by the Accountant General to do so. There is no politician in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who can legitimately sign a check to pay for expenditure on behalf of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines unless they're spending their own money. The civil servants are the ones who spend the government money. It is something I have been saying in the public for a long time. But when you speak, the persons who think that you're speaking on behalf of ones, what we need to do is to look to see what is factual. If you don't believe it, check somewhere else. Cecil, there's an important point that must be made here. During the 24, almost 25 years of the ULP as the political directorate of this country, we can safely say that that important constitutional parliamentary body referred to as the Public Accounts Committee did not function, or at least did not function efficiently. I'm of the view, I believe, that given who is now the leader of the opposition, who heads that committee, that we will see a different operations in terms of the Public Accounts Committee. I often made a point, and I repeat it here today, politicians do not appear before the Accounts Committee. So, listeners, I repeat, politicians appear before the Public Accounts Committee. Politicians are members of the Public Accounts Committee. They are the ones who ask the questions during these meetings. So whether you are from the opposition or you're from the government and you're part of that committee, when that committee is in session, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. The accounting officer, who is ordinarily the permanent secretary, or in some cases, the head of a department, are the ones who appear before the Public Accounts Committee. They are the ones who will answer the questions. Those are the ones who will respond to anything that seems out of the way with respect to the government accounts. This is what happened in St. Vincent. This is what happened elsewhere in the Caribbean, where we have a similar system of government. Accounting officers are not accounting officers to prepare the numbers, the accounts, the statements. The accounting in that title does not refer to that. The accounting officer is simply the person who is responsible. Ultimately, that person is responsible for everything that is done under the name of his or her ministry. Cecil, I never spent government money, even I served for several years as a permanent secretary. There was always the accounting staff in the ministry that did so. I will approve expenditure, depending on what it is. There are many expenditures that did not come to my attention. And that is not just for me. That occur across the public service. The minister do not approve these expenditure, except in a general way. For example, when you're seeking the release of funds through the Ministry of Finance. That's the time they will get involved. But in terms of making the actual payment, they're not involved. I say all of this to say to those who run the public service now, many of them are new to these positions, but I urge them to pay attention to the law. Read the rules, read the Finance Act, and understand what is required of you. Understand your responsibility, understand your role. And I say all of that to respond to Ms. Hosier's very simple but very important question, that politicians do not sign checks on behalf of the government. They sign their own checks. Cecil, the $95 million, I am waiting to see how much would go missing at the end of this year, because the same thing is going to occur. Those of you who are listening to me and you operate a checking account, you will know, depending on the number of checks that you're writing from your accounts, that are drawn on your accounts, that when you get your statements, there's almost always a difference between what is on your book as against what is on the statement that you receive from the bank. It doesn't mean that the statement is missing. It may mean that you have received monies and deposited them into the bank, or you may have written checks and the checks were not cashed in time for that when that statement is being prepared. When you're doing the thousands of transactions that a government does, it is likely that the irreconciled balance is always going to be larger, much larger than a regular business or an individual's checking account. And that $95 million, based on what is written by the auditor, simply says that the accounts, that was the reconciled balance. The reconciliation would be done subsequently to receiving the statements. Mm-hmm. And I understand that I know very well that where there are irreconciled balance, even before the accountant general picks them up or the director of audit. Well, it used to be in my day. The person in the department who is maintaining the cash book, at the end of the day, the balance on the cash book must reflect the balance that is being deposited at the bank. We have known, those of us who have worked long enough in the public service know that civil servants in the past, and I believe that they still do so today, had to stay back in the office and work into the night to reconcile the cash book. Mm-hmm. Government is slow, but it is sure. If it is not recorded in government, it is not done. And therefore, all these allegations of corruption will come to the fore, and persons will be prosecuted if they do exist. Mm-hmm. So I urge those who go about making these statements and expect me to shut up because of certain allegations that were made of me in the past. I am convinced, I know, if I was involved in corruption, it would have come to the fore before now, because I know civil servants had written, those with the authority had written for disciplinary action to be taken against me. The mere fact that none was taken, I believe that the corruption was not found. And I dare say yet, not that I expect any to be found, but I believe that there are those who are listening who expect corruption to be found. And if they find them, I will be prosecuted. There's no limitation, statute of limitation against government laws. And I'm not going to ask anybody to shut up. It is disrespectful, especially when you're speaking to an adult. It is rude. So I'm not going to be part of that. But I ask you, please listen and speak responsibly when you're speaking. Sorry, Cecil, I probably went on longer than.
It's all right. That's good. That's good. People cannot say they're not following. They don't understand. Somebody's asking though whether or not any of these public accounts committee session can be carried live for the benefit of the general public. Can they?
My understanding that the answer to that is no, Cecil, and I wish that can be. I know it is done in other parts of the Caribbean. The Public Accounts Committee is a subcommittee of the Parliament, and therefore it should operate in the same context as the Parliament. If you can broadcast the proceedings of Parliament live, I believe that if you don't want to broadcast the proceedings, at least you can allow journalists to attend and to report on them. But my understanding is that the rules would have to be changed for that to happen.
The rules that guide the parliament session,
the Public Accounts Committee sessions.
Okay, all right.
Would have to be changed. While the Parliament in full session can broadcast and publish their what is going on publicly. My understanding that in the Public Accounts Committee session, that it must remain, well, quote unquote, confidential until the report is presented to the Parliament.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because the committee, as you just explained, a committee is a instrument of the Parliament itself.
Yes.
Right.
But I know in other Caribbean countries, it is broadcast. There are so many other things that are broadcast in the Caribbean that we don't do in St. Vincent and in some of the other small islands. And in most instances, it's not that the government, the existing government, is censoring it. It's just that those are the rules that we have. If you take a gentleman who I assume is listening to us today, don't like me to refer to Jamaica, but we must understand that Jamaica is the oldest English-speaking Caribbean country at this time. They first gained their independence in terms of the English-speaking island, and therefore their systems in many instances are a bit more developed than ours. And I know in their case, the proceedings of the Public Accounts Committee are published to the extent that the police and the other investigating bodies will take their cue from those proceedings and carry out their investigations and press charges and prosecute if they find it necessary based on what is said in Public Accounts Committee. We may get there one day. I mean, with all the shouting about transparency with the current government, they may decide to amend the rules to allow for these things to happen. Sorry, Cecil, go ahead.
That's all right. It's okay. That's part of what we're doing today anyway. Explaining and making sure that our listeners follow.
Cecil, I'm sure you have some other clips that you want to play, and the listeners would be interested in hearing some of them.
I have many, and people their calls are coming in, but I couldn't take them because you were speaking.
You can interrupt me at any time, Cecil.
All right. I want to switch now to economic, more direct, local economic issues, and I want to start with a piece of what Prime Minister Friday said when he announced that speech on measures, cost of living measures. I'll play it now.
For the poor state of affairs in our country is the systemic failure within our state-owned enterprises. We recently assessed 12 of these entities, and the results were deeply concerning. We found governance issues such as failures, the lack of audited financial reports, and no basic planning for the future in most cases. Most troubling was the heavy-handed intervention by the political directorate at the time in the daily management of these enterprises. This led to poor decision-making and to actions that undermined the viability of these state-owned enterprises. This is an inefficient use of your hard-earned tax dollars. It stops us from building the roads and the schools and the clinics you deserve. It prevents us from investing in needed projects when funds are used to keep inefficient state-owned enterprises afloat. My government is committed to a people-first governance model. This means we choose accountability over excuses. We are taking the following actions immediately. We will enforce strict standard. That is to say, we are moving quickly to ensure that all state-owned enterprises complete their outstanding audits. The days of hidden books are over. Secondly, we will put merit over patronage. That is to say, we will institutionalize merit-based management. We are hiring the best minds for the job. 3, we have launched a comprehensive review to streamline spending. We will prioritize the critical infrastructure that help our small business owners and transport operators move our country forward.
Hi, Lanceford.
Cecil, merit management.
Before you go on, let me just ask you to clarify. The Prime Minister referred to state enterprises. He said that they looked at the books of 12. What are those? What are the state enterprises? Well, he didn't mention them, but what are state enterprises? What are you talking about?
I don't know, Cecil.
Well,
sorry. You asked a question. Okay.
What are state enterprises?
Sorry.
I presume Vinlec will be one.
Yes. Sorry.
Stability will be one. What else? National Properties will be one. Lotto will be one, another one, and so on and so forth. But my question is, if those are the state enterprises, do the funding from those enterprises contribute to central government's operation?
I know, for example, the Vinlec in the past paid monies over to the state, because Vinlec is a private company owned by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Vinlec is not a statutory body. It is not a government department. It is a private company, and it operates under the laws of private company. Cecil,
just before you go on, so for clarity, so the surpluses or the profit generated by Vinlec is passed on to the central government?
I don't think it is done automatically. Mm-hmm. I think maybe the government of the day may have to make a request, and the board will have to approve it.
The reason why sorry, go ahead.
No, I emphasize, Cecil, that Vinlec is not a statutory body. It's not a government department. It's a company, just like all of the limited company in St. Vincent, and Vinlec operates that way. Cecil, I want to make the
I
point.
just want, before you go on, I want to clarify a few things. So I am asking for the purpose of clarity that in what the Prime Minister said in this clip, that monies from these entities help to build roads and build bridges and so on, help to run the country, to spend, because he said that your tax, meaning taxpayers' money, should be used wisely. That assumes in that statement to me that that what these entities provide to these entities provide operating funds to the central government. You understand the point I'm trying to say?
I understand the point that you're making.
All right.
Cecil.
So I'm a bit confused, to be honest, and that's why I'm asking for clarity for the benefit of our listeners and myself.
Cecil, ordinary intentions would give the political directorate responsibility, authority that they don't have. But it is dangerous when politicians are arrogating unto themselves power that they don't have. The auditing function of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it's controlled by an independent office called the Director of Audit. I don't know, other than maybe nudging the boards to ask them to please make sure that your staff, your management staff, get the accounts auditing. I don't know what the Prime Minister is going to do and ensure that these auditing are done. It is the responsibility of the Director of Audit to get all, including the statutory bodies, the private companies, to have their books audited. It doesn't mean that her staff will go there and do the auditing. The boards will select their auditors, and the Director of Audit will have a say in who is finally chosen as the auditor. So when Dr. Friday indicates that he's going to get these institutions audited, I wish him well. I will be happy, very happy, if it is done, when it is done. So these boards, these institutions, these agencies, these organizations, for the most part, they operate as independent bodies, of course, with political oversight. There's a board between the management and the political directorate. There are those who argue that the board is appointed by the politicians and that makes the board political. No, definitely not. Because the board has certain responsibility in practice and in law that they must pay attention to over any directive that is given by anyone else. I don't know that
That's what can I ask. So therefore, the board of any entity, whether it's in the public or the private, their responsibility is to the company itself, the operations of that particular company or entity, isn't it?
You're so correct, Cecil. It's called a fiduciary responsibility.
Right.
That's what the board has to the company. I often hear, for example, a union would say, our representative on the board. You may be asked to nominate a member to the board. But when that member goes there, the member does not have a responsibility to you who made the nomination. you have a responsibility to the company.
Mm-hmm.
But you asked a question, Cecil, and you answered it in part. And I want to add that no, it's not generally the case that statutory bodies and private companies owned by the state put their surplus or profit into the coffers of the government. They have their own bank accounts. They have their own system of controlling that. The accountant general doesn't have automatic access to these funds. These funds are controlled by the management, directed by the board. That is the case, Cecil. I have sat on a few of those boards by virtue of the position I held. And so it is on that basis I am speaking.
The reason why I pose that question, Lanceford, as you may well see, is that when Prime Minister Friday says that the country is in a bad state because the books of these 12 entities which they have examined show that they are operating poorly in terms of governance, in terms of accountability, and so on and so forth, then it leaves me wondering. And then he makes the point at the very end that your tax dollars are not well taken care of, or he's going to make sure that when he insists that these boards entities meet and they both meet, that is protecting, basically saying he's going to protect the taxpayers' money. That is why I'm a bit confused, and we need to clarify that for people listening.
Cecil, if there's efficiency in any agency, whether it's a government department or a company, a statutory body, yes, there's always the need to improve the efficiency.
Agreed.
One of the things I think you had an obligation to do, Cecil, is to indicate that this insert that you're playing, I hope I'm not wrong, came from a moment when the Honorable Prime Minister came to announce support.
Well, when he made a
to
speech
the population,
cost of living measures, which is about a week and a half ago. Yeah, you're correct. That insert came from that speech.
Yes, the announcement was he was coming on to announce relief to the population. I don't know if it is that he did not communicate, that he did not say that to the people who was advertising his appearance in the public. But that's what I heard. He was coming on to announce relief to the population. And like most Vincentians, I am still waiting to hear the relief. I don't know if increasing prices by close to 30% on energy is relief. Cecil, we are in a dangerous situation, you know. We are in a very dangerous situation. I'm sorry for the fishermen. And my mind is always on them because that's my main source of protein. I don't eat meat from animals. So I'm always, not now, looking out for the interest.
We're in the same category, you and me.
And when you have a situation where their input in their production, one of them, their main input, fuel that they use to go out to the sea to catch their fish, the prices have increased by close to 30%. I don't know how we're going to buy fish in the weeks coming, Cecil. If we're going to get in the first place, and if we get, how we're going to buy it. Cecil, I run the risk of upsetting some of your your listeners, but that's how I am. I speak what I see.
Well,
Dr. Friday,
if it is the truth, it is the truth. I mean,
Dr. Friday in his presentation used a lot of fluff. Fluff is just a term used for words that you speak or words that you write that do not add any clarity, any meaning to what you're saying. In many instances, it creates confusion more than adding clarity. Among the fluff that is in that statement, Cecil, are some general phrases, some general statements about, for example, the efficiency of the government bodies. How did you measure the efficiency? Which of these bodies are you talking about, Prime Minister? And what are their shortcomings? What did the audit say? Did the audit say that funds were missing that could have been transferred to the government coffers? Is that what you're saying? Or you are just speaking words that were given to you?
Lanceford, if you don't mind, Lanceford, can I just play the insult again so that we can all follow a little bit?
Please do, Cecil. Please do.
Yeah.
This is
Well, sorry,
Caribbean
that's the wrong one.
Connection News.
That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. I'm getting the right one.
One reason for the poor state of affairs in our country is the systemic failure within our state-owned enterprises. We recently assessed 12 of these entities, and the results were deeply concerning. We found governance issues such as failures, the lack of audited financial reports, and no basic planning for the future in most cases. Most troubling was the heavy-handed intervention by the political directorate at the time in the daily management of these enterprises. This led to poor decision-making and to actions that undermined the viability of these state-owned enterprises. This is an inefficient use of your hard-earned tax dollars. It stops us from building the roads and the schools and the clinics you deserve. It prevents us from investing in needed projects when funds are used to keep inefficient state-owned enterprises afloat. My government is committed to a people-first governance model. This means we choose accountability over excuses. We are taking the following actions immediately. We will enforce strict standard. That is to say, we are moving quickly to ensure that all state-owned enterprises complete their outstanding audits. The days of hidden books are over. Secondly, we will put merit over patronage. That is to say, we will institutionalize merit-based management. We are hiring the best minds for the job. 3, we have launched a comprehensive review to streamline spending. We will prioritize the critical infrastructure that help our small business owners and transport operators move our country forward.
This is Caribbean Connection News.
So Lanceford, sorry about that. They're next to each other, and I don't clip it in time, and that's what's happened. Yes, so Lanceford, that's it. That was the replay of the insert.
Well, Cecil, I hope that the listeners paid attention to the fluff that is in that are in that insert, the number of statements that didn't mean anything to us as listeners. Most of it didn't mean anything to us. Cecil, if I may talk about the hiring of the best minds and persons for the job. I noticed very early in the life of this administration that reference was made to senior economic advisors. When the ULP took office, I know the late Christian Martin, was hired as a consultant. Many of us knew the competence of Mr. Martin, an economist in training, an economist in practice, a very experienced man. I saw persons around this government who I know functioned as public administrators, not economists. I note at the beginning of the weekend in the news, when the delegation was announced that attended the meeting in the Bahamas, the CDB meeting, that one of the delegates was named as ambassador, finance advisor. I repeat, ambassador, finance advisor. We heard early that ambassadors were appointed to Taiwan, Cuba, and so forth, consul generals, etc. So when those announcements were made, right away we know what would be their responsibility. We know where they were going. I am now hearing reference to an individual as ambassador. I never heard an official announcement of that appointment. And it is interesting. We can ask, what is that gentleman's appointment as ambassador for? Where? What is his jurisdiction? And this is not a statement about the gentleman. I am not questioning anything about him, whether it is academic qualification, his professional experience. I am not questioning that. All I'm asking, what is his responsibility as ambassador? Additionally, Cecil, I would like to ask, were there other persons or person who was or were appointed as ambassador? And if so, are they paid? I know we have many ambassadors in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who are not paid. They are expected to do the work voluntarily. Our cultural ambassadors, our sporting activist ambassadors, some of them are doing very well at what they were selected to do. But I simply ask a question: how many, if at all, additional ambassadors were appointed recently, and for what purpose? So that question is linked to the efficiency of government. In government, there are two ministers, in my opinion, that are technical officers. Their work requires them to be technical officers. The Attorney General and the Minister of Finance. The Attorney General is required to be a lawyer because his or her main responsibility is to advise the government, to advise the Parliament on legal matters. The Minister of Finance, Cecil, by nature of his or her work, is required to interact and engage with language on a daily basis that you must have a proper understanding of. You must understand accounting language. I'm not saying that you must be able to prepare accounts, but you must understand the language. You must understand economic language. Is that the case in St. Vincent at this point, Cecil? When we are talking about maximum efficiency? Is that the case? Do we have a prime minister who understands fully accounting language? Who understands economic language? We're going to have problems. We are going to have problems, Cecil. That's why we had a delegation going to the IMF to look for developmental financing. That's not the role of the IMF. That's why we are where we are. We are facing the prospects of IMF measures, albeit voluntarily imposed on Vincentians. When what was required is for you to engage the CDB, the World Bank, and your local professionals who have been in office for many years before you, who are trained in the various fields. But you refuse to do that. And you head to the IMF to talk about developmental financing. We are at a bad place, so. Mark my word on this. We are at a very bad place. We need investment in the country. We need our GDP to continue to expand. The last government took it from approximately $8 million to $3.1 billion and left prospects for further expansion of the GDP. We have heard the announcement that one such prospect is significantly delayed until possible 2030. Our government need to be advised properly that we need to focus on expanding our GDP. We have the infrastructure for that to happen. Persons hear me speak will be tired of hearing me say it. But from my understanding of our economy, from my understanding of our society, that is what is needed urgently. Cecil, I have been involved in the management of this economy since my entry in the public service as a junior clerk. The role I played, the post I held, the job I did was to provide data to assist in the economic management of the country. Whether it was trade data, production data, that's what I was involved in. And since then, I've gained training and experience. I am not presenting myself here as an expert. I am not presenting myself here as somebody with the responsibility. I am presenting myself as a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines with concerns with respect to where we are going as a country, and to indicate that if we do not bring in investment, if we do not have implemented in St. Vincent and the Grenadines investment projects as soon as possible, you're going to have a very difficult time. So when last you heard the inflation rate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Haven't heard it recently.
When
you can share it with us. Do you?
When I worked with the government on a monthly basis, we released the inflation figures every month. We are now in June. Today is what, the 6th? 6th of June?
7th, sorry.
Right.
7th.
If not yet, by next week, we would have released we did the pricing information for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I've not heard it in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they are back with it, if they are delayed, if there are some issues. But it's a simpler index that you collect the data. The staff go to the outlets, collect the data. In my latter days, put that data into a spreadsheet, and you get the numbers almost automatically. I don't know what is taking so long. Is it that? Or is it our government is so transparent that they no longer find it important or even necessary to publish the inflation data for St. Vincent and the Grenadines? So that is important.
Mm-hmm.
When you have fuel and light, that's a category in the price index. When you have that items in there, in that category being increased by almost 30% in one go, fuel and light is important in our consumption patterns, in our food basket, in our basket of items.
Mm-hmm.
Now, more than it was even 5-10 years ago. Our population have become far more mobile than they used to be. There are much more persons who are working outside of their homes now and their immediate vicinity, and need to take public transportation. There are many more persons who are using private vehicles to get around now. And therefore, this 30% increase in fuel prices is going to have a devastating effect on St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some of these things are very simple, Cecil,
mm-hmm.
and we announce them and we speak about them very lightly, because all it is that a man is still going to the gas station and say, put in $50 gas for me. Because we never ask for 2 gallons of gas when we go to the gas station. We ask for $50. Mm-hmm. 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, the amount that you got for your $50 was significantly more than you're getting for your $50 now. That's
almost 30% more.
Yes. Yeah, so 30% in some instances, in probably one instance, in some instances. That's what we are facing.
Yeah. Lanceford, you have about 15 minutes remaining in the program, and we want to invite some people to call and respond.
Yes, Cecil, you can do that.
But I need to say, there's so many other clips that I have not played. I have a number of clips where former finance minister Camilo Gonzalez responded to some of the measures. It would have been good to have played some of them, but we don't have the time, so I might have to come back next week and to continue playing some of these clips because they provide very good pointers, as you've been doing, very, very good pointers for our discussion today. So if you have a call now, I'll take it. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Yes, good afternoon.
First of all, can you move away from your device or something's causing a feedback? Are you there?
Are we still hearing the feedback?
That's better. That's better.
Now, White House Board of Cecil, Tom Harmon, was the subject of a federal public corruption investigation regarding allegation that he accepted a $50,000 cash bribes from an FBI agent in September 2024. He was investigated, and when Trump came into power, it was ended. Does it mean he didn't take that $50,000 bribe? So, Mr. Weeks, you say you had allegations, and
Hello.
Go ahead.
With all due respect, we're having a discussion on a few clips, and Mr. Weeks was responding to those clips.
But he said something. I'm responding to something he said.
My friend, I am not going to allow anybody to take over this program and to draw unnecessary attention to a particular thing which has to do with Mr. Weeks. It is not fair. It is not fair. I am not going to allow you to do that. If you have another point to raise on other matters to do with the economy, I'm willing to allow you to go on. If not, I won't allow you.
And that's why I call you the Ayatollah of Ascension Talk Radio.
Thank you very much.
You stifle people.
Yes.
Cecil, if I may, I am a retired person. I still attempt to contribute to the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines where I can. As I've said here repeatedly, I do not consider myself the sole holder of facts. I do not have a script before me. I did not go on the internet to dig up anything I am saying here.
Lanceford, could you hold a minute? There's another call on the line. I want to go to it. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, sir. Is this Mr. Gentleman's program?
Yeah, this is your turn, and the person who is talking right now is Cecil Ryan. Mr. Weeks, Lanceford Weeks, is
good.
on the program via video connect.
Right.
Video link. Okay.
But I could hold on and wait my turn.
No. Go ahead. You make a point.
But I heard. Okay. Now I am baffled.
Mr. Weeks is on and he's hearing you, so you know.
By here, Mr. Ryan speaking. You see.
Good morning, Mr. Providence. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to It's Your Turn.
And to get on to Mr. Ryan's program,
This is
talking
it.
to Mr. Weeks?
No, hear me.
I see.
This
Okay,
is
all
the
right. Well,
program.
sorry.
I'm in the
beautiful.
studio,
Thank you very
and
much.
Mr. Weeks is on via video link.
Okay. I see.
All right.
Thank you very much. Now, I am baffled by the response of Mr. Weeks to the question from the citizen about funds proffered in response to the volcanic eruption. Because Mr. Weeks seemed to have suggested that the construction of the hospital in Lanceford was financed from those contributions. Is my
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Providence.
Yeah.
I don't think I said that. And if I did, it was inadvertent.
So this is why I asked if I was wrong, that my interpretation was wrong,
Significantly wrong. It contradicts directly with the facts that are in the public, if I were to say that.
Okay. Now, if the promises made by the donors were channeled through organizations such as the Salvation Army, then the people need to be properly informed so that there could be no misunderstanding. I think so. It should be said, okay, some XY dollars went to Salvation Army, XY dollars went to whoever they are.
Who has the responsibility to do that, Mr. Providence? Who would you say have the responsibility to do that?
Well, even the recipients of the thing, to be able to document it properly for our people, should be able to tell our people, okay, these monies came to XYZ. Because the people heard that these great people abroad were making significant donations, And if it hasn't reached the government, well, we ought to be properly informed. That's how I see it.
By whom? That's what I'm asking. Who should inform us?
Well, all parties could get it. Who are infected could inform. Even the donors, But we could use our influence to have it thing, because if it hasn't reached our administrators, then we're going to be blaming the administrators and say they get X, Y, and they haven't spent it, you see?
Mr. Providence,
the administrator's interest to say where the monies went. That the monies didn't come to them, but they went to these other organizations. You see what I mean?
Yes, I understand and I agree. In the first case, those who are provided the grant never intended to send them to the government. They have the agencies, the United. Sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Now, it was interesting to hear the distinguished gentleman say that despite the fact that the members of statutory boards are appointed by the governor of the state, the board members are not dictated to or influenced by the political leadership. They're totally independent. That struck me as very...
I did not say that, Mr. Providence. Do not change my words, please.
That's the impression I got. So, well, you said
the
board members are not influenced. That's the impression I got. Am I wrong then?
Mr. Providence, according to the young people on the street. Mr. Providence, according to the young people on the street, you're, using their language, you're big enough to know better than what you're doing. I know you have the competence, sir. I know you have the competence to listen and to hear well. There's a difference between...
Thanks for the ratings with that respect. Tell me.
There's a difference between being able to influence and being able to direct. I made it a point that both have a fiduciary obligation, responsibility to the company.
Yeah.
So if they want to make politicians influence them to do things that are not correct, and those are not, and things that are not in keeping with law, they will have it coming, because the Prime Minister says he will have the accounts audited.
Yeah.
These audits are not done by civil servants, generally speaking. These are done by professional accounting firms, and they will not put their reputation, because that's how they get their job. They will not put their reputation on the line by covering up.
Yeah. But now, you said we're in a bad place. You said that's why we are where we are in a bad place. And I am suggesting we are at a bad place primarily because of the palpable untrustworthiness of our political leadership. And considering your admission that you have been a prominent player over an extended period in the business of our state, it will be difficult for you to exonerate yourself from the crippling agony now facing us. So I hope to hear you in discussion so that we could unravel this morass in which we have found ourselves. Because you are well positioned to help us get out of this malaise.
Again, Mr. Providence. Cecil, can you allow me, please?
Sure, man.
Hold on, Mr. Providence. Yes.
No, let Mr. Providence finish, and I will speak after Cecil.
Are you finished, Mr. Providence?
Yes, thank you very much.
But also, you mentioned the word, you were accusing Mr. Weeks of being part of the malice, you call it? Is that what you said?
You said we're in a bad place.
Yeah. Mr. Weeks used those terms when he spoke. But I'm asking you, I just want you to clarify. You're accusing Mr. Weeks of having been part of that?
No, I'm saying, Mr. Weeks himself said he was a prominent player for quite a long time.
Yes.
And the game that was played has left us in a bad place. Because you remember, I particularly the farming organization, the farming people of St. David, had been complaining about the absence of roads. As a matter of fact, you and your group had promised to visit our situation and see what we're talking about, but you never did. And so we're still suffering because of that. And crippling our capacity to respond.
You say you're still suffering because we didn't make a visit? Is that what you're saying?
Pardon me?
You're saying that at your invitation, we would have made a visit, and you say you're still...
and you promised.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. But you say you're still suffering because we didn't make a visit?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the pause.
The agony of the absence of the support.
All right, my friend. Okay. All right, Mr. Providence, if you say that, no sense. Yeah, but finish and so that Mr. Weeks could respond to you.
Okay, because I am saying you gentlemen are well placed to use your influence and intellectual capacity to help guide us out of this situation we are in,
And what do you think we've been doing all morning? What do you think we've been doing? What do you think we've been doing all day when we started the program?
Well, you've been opening the discussion, so this is why I'm commending you and supporting you and reminding you that you are well positioned to continue in this discussion and to go beyond that and use your influence to guide the managers so that they could address the problems which are facing the community so that we can take ourselves out of this morass in which we now find ourselves.
All right, listen to Mr. Weeks. Mr. Weeks is responding to your accusation.
Yeah.
Mr. Weeks.
Mr. Providence seem to be quite competent in arriving at jaundiced interpretation of what he said. I said I was involved in the management of the country, economic management, since I entered the public service.
Yeah.
I never said I played a prominent role. Never said that.
No, but
Mr. Providence.
Mr.
Providence.
Mr. Providence.
Mr. Providence.
Mr. Providence.
Hold on.
Mr. Providence.
Sorry about that.
I listened to you, I stayed completely quiet while you made your allegations.
All right. I'll be quiet.
What kind of temper you have so that you cannot sit and listen? You're an adult.
Yeah.
You're an adult, Mr. Providence.
Yeah.
I don't think you're losing your way. I don't think you're losing it.
I hope I'm not.
I hope so too. And I'm very serious with that.
But I'm listening.
But don't come here to make allegations. I listened to with you making them. And I'm trying to respond. And you feel you can interrupt me? None of you are going to shut me up here. The more you all attempt to shut me up, is the more I will speak.
I am not intending to shut you up. As a matter of fact, I want you to be involved in the discussion significantly as you go forward, because as I'm saying, you're one of the people who are well equipped to do it, to get us out of this rut.
I'm not volunteering to get us out. I leave that to our government to do that. And to you, who support the government, for you to participate in doing it.
Listen, I support any government who is advancing the cause of our people. This is why in 2001, I will tell you, I voted for the ULP because they said they were promising to address our needs, that the farmers' need of fixing those roads, and they were going to rehabilitate the banana industry. I voted for them on that, and they failed. They treated us treacherously, so that up to now we can't have good roads. I can't even drive to the farm properly now. So this is why I'm saying I'm expecting men like you, Mr. Gentleman, there to play a strong role in the discussions we have to take ourselves out of this economic stagnation we find ourselves in. You know, that's why I'm appealing to you. That's why I rate you.
But Mr. Providence.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know, Mr. Weeks has responded, and there's actually we are out of time in terms of the program.
Okay, sorry about that, my friend.
No, it's not your fault. No, it's nothing to do with your fault. I just wanted to tell you, I'm looking at the time in studio here.
Okay.
And perhaps we can continue this discussion. You might want to raise this discussion another time. All right. In the meantime, thank you very much for being part of our program today.
And thank you for the service, because this country needs to talk, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much.
That's why we're having these discussions.
All the best.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah, Lanceford, we have a number of items, clips within play today. So we would have to.
Cecil, I'll make myself available if you request my attention.
I always value very much your participation and your knowledge.
But I want to thank you, Cecil. And before I go any further, I want to extend greetings to Pigeon, and to say that I hope he's doing well and he will be back sooner rather than later. Cecil, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I come here and I speak. I expect certain things to happen after I have spoken here. I knew it before I came on. And we are going out with Christian gentlemen who come in on here to get very personal, making allegations, interrupting my statements that I clearly did not say. I don't know if that is being honest, but I believe it is deliberate. And I repeat the point, Cecil. There's one person who said to me quite recently that I must shut up and observe a dignified silence. That ain't gonna happen. That will not happen. Cecil, thank you. And thank WeFM for giving me the opportunity to speak publicly on these matters. And I said, if you invite me back, I will come back.
And I've said to you most definitely, And I also said that your contribution to the program is so valuable, enriching. And I'm sure what people have told me, many people have told me that they learned so much from you being on the program and explaining these matters. And that's basically the mission of the program, to help people to understand everyday living and to expose those things which do not add to good living in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And that's why I've been on this program. Knowledge is so important, and some people don't like it and they try to twist the truth. But those of us who know better have to can't allow those things. And we've been in this thing too long. So Lanceford, thanks again, and look forward to next week.
Well, thank you, Cecil. And I know there are some persons who are listening, Cecil. You don't know that they're listening. Mm-hmm. They never called. They never will call. But they listen. And I'm not saying that they're listening because I am on. They listen to your program.
Okay.
And they listen because your program is good. Thank you. Until next time, Cecil.
All right, then. Thanks a lot, and have enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, man. Thanks.
Yes. And I just want to say thanks to all the other persons who have called or sent messages to the program. We thank you very much. We also thank the management of Star FM and Garfin Radio for carrying the program as well. And we hope that all those who are down today, for whatever reason, that your spirit is lifted and you have a good week starting today. And as usual, in times, you have to be strong. As Black Stalin reminds us.
We seem to feel that life is over just because we throw a few pennies down the gutter. We seem to feel everything is lost, so we fighting to get back something at any cost. But while we searching and we searching just to get back that little something, we forgetting we knows nothing about this world in which we live in. Someone greater put this world together, so we must remember, in times of plenty we must be grateful. In times of sorrow we must be strong. In times of joy we must be thankful, because life really happens up and it's